Welcome back to Anderson's Smoke Show. Today I'm out at my Masterbuilt digital charcoal smoker, and today we are going to smoke 3 racks of spare ribs. Stick around and see how we do it. If you're new here, I'm here to show you that backyard barbecue can be fun and easy. So be sure to subscribe to my channel and ring that bell so that you can keep up with the latest content. Be sure to like the video and write me a comment. Let me know what you think of these spare ribs or that Masterbuilt digital charcoal smoker. Now let's get started. Preparing these ribs is going to be really simple, and truthfully it's only going to take a few minutes. The Masterbuilt digital charcoal smoker, on the other hand, is going to take about 20 minutes to get up to temperature. So we're going to go ahead and get started with that and get that thing fired up, and we can work on these ribs while the smoker is heating up. Now this is going to be a low and slow cook, so I've already got the partition into the charcoal basket. We're going to go ahead and pull this out a little bit. You could see that this basket actually warped a little bit. I'm gonna set this down here. As you can see, I already have a fire starter in here, and I'm just gonna load the charcoal around this basket. And I'm using some Ridge charcoal today. This is by Royal Oak. Got some cherry wood that I'm also going to throw in here, and we're just going to stagger that around this basket. That'll produce smoke throughout the entire cook. Put some of these smaller pieces down into the partition. That will help with some smoke as well. Put the larger pieces in here. Swap these two. Put this big one up front in the cook while the meat's still going to be accepting that smoke. And we'll put another piece or two down in here. Now that we've got this loaded up, let's get this whole basket into the smoker. And I'm gonna take my handy dandy lighter, and I'm gonna get in here on that fire starter with an oil-soaked paper towel. We're just gonna get this started. Now that we've got it lit, we wanna give it 3 minutes so that it can start to get that charcoal ready. At that point, we'll turn the controller on and shut the door. While we're waiting for this thing to heat up, I just wanna show you that I did get a gasket kit. It's an Oklahoma Joe's. It's a wool and fiber kit, and I lined this cabinet door with that gasket. I think it made for a much better fit. It's a little tighter now, and I think it'll seal it up better. My 3-minute timer is going off. It is time to get this thing turned on. For this ribs cook, we are going to set this to 235 degrees. So there we are. We're gonna hit the temperature button. All right, now we'll get the door closed here. Can hear the fan kicked on. Now that we've got the smoker fired up, we're waiting for it to get up to temperature. It is time to prepare these spare ribs. So why don't you come on in here, let's get it done. If you want tender ribs, you have to take this membrane that stretches across the backside of these ribs off. So what I like to do is I get up against one of them rib bones. You can see it right there. And I get my butter knife underneath it, and I work it all the way down the length of that rib, and I just start to pull. And I apply that pressure. You can see that that membrane is starting to pull away. Now take a piece of paper towel and grab that membrane and pull up to the other side of the rib so that you loosen it across. And now we want to pull all the way down. And if we did a good job here, we should be able to pull almost the entire membrane in one swipe. So let's go ahead and do that to the rest of these ribs. All right, now that we've got the membrane off of all 3 racks of ribs, we need to do some trimming. As you can see, one side of these ribs is always gonna be thicker than the other, and this real thin side is gonna cook so fast and get tough that it's not worth dealing with on a rib cook. So you wanna go back a couple rib bones, find that other rib bone, you wanna square it off just like so. And we'll save this for something else. Now, any loose fat that you may see on these ribs, sometimes you'll find some on the back, big chunks of flesh hanging off. This one looks all right. This one looks all right. A few pieces here. We'll trim up. I'm gonna leave that fat there. We got this last one. Honestly, these all look pretty good. We've got the membranes removed. We've got these ribs trimmed. It's time to get a little binder on there, and I'm gonna use some yellow mustard. Be sure to shake it up a little bit. We're gonna get some mustard on these ribs. I'm gonna take my gloved hand. We'll just spread this around. And this really is just gonna act like some glue so that that rub really sticks to these spare ribs. I've got a rib rub here. Let's go ahead and get these things coated up pretty nicely. Take the back side of my glove here and I'll just pat that in and make sure it's sticking to them ribs. And we'll flip that over. Smoker is up to 235 degrees. The ribs are sweating and they are ready to get in. Pull this rack out a little bit and I'm gonna try and put all three right across like so. Just move them in just a little bit right off those outside walls. Just like so, get that push back in there. Now that we've got the ribs into the Masterbuilt digital charcoal smoker at 235 degrees, we're gonna give it 3 hours. We're gonna check in about an hour with a spritzer bottle with some apple juice, and if they look dry at all on the surface, we're just gonna give it a little spritz. We'll see you then. All right, we're at the 2 hour mark. I checked the ribs about an hour ago and they were still sweating pretty good, so I didn't spritz. Now it's time to do that, and I've got some extra water to put into that water pan, so let's do it. See, the surface is drying up there, so we're just gonna spritz this with some apple juice. That apple juice will help create a nice bark due to the sugar content that we've got in this. And our water pan has run dry in a couple hours. That's one disadvantage of this thing. The water pan is pretty small. I'll just fill this back up though. Get that put down back into here. Give a couple more spritz for good luck. And I'll get the door closed. I wanted to take a minute here. Let's see what's going on within this charcoal basket. You can see we've actually snaked all the way around. We'll get this closed back up. We'll keep an eye on the charcoal. We may need to add a little bit more. All right, it's been 3 hours now and it is time to get these ribs out of the smoker and get them wrapped up. So let's do it. Got a nice little bend. They're looking good. All right. Get the smoker closed up. We'll get them wrapped up. When it comes to getting the perfect tenderness on ribs, I like to wrap them. So I did 3 hours smoked with just spritz. Now it's gonna be an hour and a half wrapped. And in the wrap, I like to include brown sugar, butter, and a little bit of barbecue sauce. So let's get it done. All right, so it helps to have some heavy duty wide foil. Reynolds wrap makes a good one. It's a little heavier duty, it keeps some bones from protruding through the foil, and the wide helps you just wrap it up a little bit better. So I'm gonna take a nice big sheet here. I'm gonna go shiny side up. That way we've got less chance of sticking. And I'm gonna get these ribs placed right here for a second. The reason why is I'm going to take some of the brown sugar and we'll put that down on the foil. I'm going to take a couple squares of butter, probably about 3 or 4. And I'm going to drizzle a little bit of barbecue sauce in here. In this, I just want a little bit, and that's just to get some little bit of extra flavor. Now I'm going to take this rack of ribs, place it right on top of that. Then I want to do the same thing right on top. Now it's time to carefully wrap these ribs, and you just want to be careful not to go too tight because you could end up tearing the foil. If the corners are sharp or the bones are sharp, you know, we just don't want to do that. We just want to seal this up just like so. And we've got one rack down. So let's get working on the next two. All right, let's get these ribs back in at 235. Pull this rack out just a little bit. I'm gonna put them in there back just like I did. Now we want to make sure that we put them meat side down. All them juices are gonna sit down there with the ribs and help tenderize them even more. All right, we're gonna get this closed. The ribs are back into the smoker, wrapped up. We're gonna give it an hour and a half at 235 degrees. We're gonna come out and unwrap them at that point. We'll see you then. The ribs have been wrapped and in the smoker at 235 degrees for an hour and a half now. It is time to pull them out, remove them from the foil, and get them sauced. So let's do it. Careful not to rip the foil because it'll make a big mess. I think what I'll do is just work on one rack of ribs at a time and get it back in the smoker afterwards. All right, so take a look at those ribs there. Man, do those look good. There's just a little bit of juice left down in the bottom. I'm gonna get, oh, look at that. We got some great pull back there. Yeah. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna drizzle some sauce over the top here. And then I've got my basting brush here, silicone brush. We're just gonna brush that on. You can see we got a nice dark bark. It comes from that the sugars that we use, the brown sugar, the rub, the sauce, everything. All right, so now I'm gonna return this rack of ribs back to the smoker. And when I put it in, I wanna flip it over. So we've got that meat side, up. Take some of my sauce here. I will just brush that on right here in the smoker. Then I'll just move on to the next rack. The ribs are back in the smoker for their final half hour. During this period, the sauce is gonna set up and caramelize a little bit, and we're gonna get ready for dinner. We'll see you then. The ribs have been in for a half hour, sauced up. It is time to get them out. I'm excited to see what they look like. That sauce glazed up real well. Look at that here. These ribs up. It's time to get them cut up and give them a try. All right, all of this work means nothing until we try these ribs. Come on in here while I cut them up. It's a lot easier to cut these ribs when you flip them over, because then you can actually see the direction that the bones are running and you can cut right in between, just like so. And they usually run at an angle, so it makes it a little easier, like I said, to look at it from the backside. And I can tell you right now that these are nice and tender. They're gonna be a good bite off the bone rib. I'll show you what that looks like. Got a nice smoke ring. Nice finish on these ribs. Excited to give them a try. Let's give these ribs a try. Wow. Oh, they got a nice smoke flavor. You can definitely tell that they came off of a charcoal grill. I tell you what, these ribs are fantastic. They got a great smoke flavor. They got a nice smoke ring. They're juicy and they're tender. I can tell you what, if you don't want those fall off the bone ribs, this method here where we do 3 hours unwrapped, 1.5 hours wrapped, and a half hour unwrapped sauce is gonna give you the perfect bite off the bone ribs. Following this method will give you a nice bark, will give you a nice finish. I tell you what, you won't be disappointed. I can tell you right now that that Masterbuilt digital charcoal smoker did a good job. It's about 45 degrees outside today, and it seemed to do a great job of keeping up the temperature. Now in the Ohio winter, when we're down in the teens and single digits, we'll have to see how it does. Might get a welding blanket. We'll figure it out. As you see, I got a lot of food to eat, and I've been working on these all day. So I'm gonna get at it, and I'll see you next time at Anderson's Smoke Show.
Thanks again for tuning into Anderson's Smoke Show. Be sure to subscribe to my channel and check out that recommended video, then my Facebook and my Instagram pages. I'll see you there.